Hey everyone, welcome back. We are going to be talking about some fun cards over here. We're going to talk about product cards. Now, these are really interesting. They're going to be almost like the bread and butter of our actual app. There's going to be a lot of these around, and this is where we're going to choose how to use color and typography like in unison with imagery. I mean, there's going to be so much going on here, and just buckle up because it's going to be fun. So I grabbed a image of the new MacBook Pro from the Apple site. I mean, or just like Google image, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use this right now like this. I'm going to grab it. I'm just going to make a copy of it just in case, I use an original and I mess it up. So make sure you always have like copies behind and grab items and bring them into your file over here by like, copy and pasting them. So I'm going to just put a new frame down. I'm already starting to name it as like product cards. So there we go. I'm going to bring this right in. So I'm actually going to go straight into designing some of these product cards. So I'm going to press F for another frame. And then I am going to, go ahead and just round those borders a bit. I'm going to give it a fill. Just so I can see it. Okay, so there's our card so far. So we have that big card, and I'm going to grab a version of it right now. Let's bring it in here. Oops. Okay, so right now we've decided that, okay, we have an image, we have a name, we have the price, maybe some secondary text. So we can create some variations of cards here. I'm just going to call this like MacBook Pro, and I'm gonna use like right now I'm not using any of these styles over here, and I'm going to maybe have some subtext that says like Apple, and then I'll probably just have like a price. We'll maybe make some variations of this. So maybe this is like $2,000. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so now we have some content for this. And now I'm going to use some of our fonts to really drive some of this information home. So I have 20 pixels. I think semi-pro's too much. Semi-bold's too much. We have this. This can be like 14, and inter is fine. And this one can be inter as well. And I think something like 16 is probably better. Maybe this is like 12 because it's not that important, like we already know, but I mean, it's great to have this depending on the product. So I'm going to just group these in a frame right away, and then group these in a frame right away. Okay. So bold, maybe like I'm not a big fan of using super bold copy. But okay, now we have our text. I'm just going to keep that down here. I'm going to go into our plugin and try to find actually, we don't even need to go into our plugin because we did use a heart icon. Now, as we start to, fall in love with like a different type of icon family, we should bring that in and use it as a component if we can. So I'm just going to sneak that up there. And then this can go inside here. So already we have a pretty cool, card that we're putting together. Maybe it's something like this. Right now, as you can tell, like I'm just being pretty liberal with like the way I'm, making these colors work together. And maybe that is going to be the dark version. And then over here, I have another version. Where's my color? I'm actually going to bring these colors down in a quick second. And you know what? I'm going to bring all these colors down. And here we go. So there we go. We got our containers, our accents. Oops. We have our containers of our accents, and so this is like one variation of a card. You know, if we just want to have like a simple background, maybe some text over there with our heart. But the problem is, like, you know, it seems kind of boring, unfortunately. Like maybe there is like a background color over here that's like, you know, it's right here, and maybe it's like it's matching the background of there. This will clip. And there we go, it's inside the frame. So I mean, there's definitely a lot of possibility with what we can do with that. So I mean, that's okay, but I mean, I'm not really liking it. And that's because I think we're just not creating enough, you know, enough hierarchy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a copy of that frame. And I'm gonna take this image, just throw it there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to just bring it in a little bit more, and I'm going to run the plugin for removing the background. So let's see how we do with this. So I'm going to run it. Perfect. Okay, so that looks nice. What about using our actual brand colors to actually make this nicer? So like, you know, we can bring this down here. Maybe that's a little too thick, and we have like, you know, a couple of instances on the screen at the same time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab like one of these colors, like that. Oop, not the stroke. Here, let me just fill it. There we go. Let me just grab that. And that's actually starting to look much more interesting. So we have all that we need here, and you know what? Oops, I'm gonna grab another one, and I'm wondering, you know, we could really play to this a bit. Like, what happens if we have like a bunch of variations with color here, like using, you know, these background colors as our variations. Very, very interesting, because I think we can also make some pretty cool changes there. And I think it kind of plays really nicely with, you know, some of these cards, which I'm going to bring down in a second. So we can, oops, I'm just going to drag them from there. So, I mean, there's definitely some options here for, you know, having, say, like a yellow version and, oh, I already have purple, like a blue version over here. So I think we could play with this, like, you know, anything that's recommended to you is coming in this really cool popping color. But what about like the instance where, you know, maybe we don't have that? Like we have just, you know, something that's way more tame for everything else. So I'm always thinking about like those types of scenarios where, you know, maybe we don't always have like just color screaming out at you, and we do have like versions where, you know, they're a bit more calm, I would say, in comparison. So maybe it's like, you know, there we go, and then we have this version over here that, you know, this is a little dark with the black, but we can go and, you know, pick something like that. And here we go. And there we go. Maybe there's like a rating or something like that there as well, but I'm not getting too far into the details just yet with that. So maybe we have like, these are like maybe secondary ones. We can also just say like, hey, instead of like having that background, you know, we just roll with a stroke instead. And maybe we decide that this heart isn't something that's necessary just yet on these types of cards or something like that. But As you can tell, now we have like a couple different variations here of what product cards can look like. I'm really digging these types of cards for like our secondary images and anything that's like huge and like, okay, this is recommended to you based off of like your interests. Maybe should, maybe either the interests are in like based off of a color, or maybe it's just like randomized, but I think it adds a little bit of fun to the card. And just like to the app in general, sometimes apps have this tendency of, being a bit bland these days, just because it's easier to, make more so like neutral palettes and whatnot. But so I think like there's definitely a lot of potential here. Like I'm actually kind of liking, I'm just gonna bump this font size up to like maybe 20. I'm actually, maybe not, but maybe it's like a medium. But I'm liking this version a lot. It's looking really, really good. And yeah, I think I'm going to stop there for product cards right now. And then I'm going to head over to these cards because I think this is a natural progression. Let's jump over.